So, let's talk about what's been happening in America. If you've looked at the news recently, you've probably seen a lot of people on the streets. They are not there for a flash mob or to find a rare Pokemon. No, these are massive protests, and they are spreading across the country like a viral TikTok dance, but with a lot more at stake. It all kicked off in sunny Los Angeles on Friday, June 6th. You know, Louisiana, the city of dreams. But for many people that day, it felt more like a nightmare was starting, and they decided it was time to wake everyone up. The catalyst for all this was a series of raids by an agency called ICE, which stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Think of them as the government's very serious, very unfun bouncers. They were conducting federal immigration raids, and people in the community were not happy about it. So, they did what Americans do when they get angry. They grabbed some cardboard, wrote some things on it, and started chanting. The protests began in the heart of central Los Angeles and quickly grew as more and more people heard what was happening in their city. Things got even more intense when a very important person was arrested. His name is David Huerta, and he's the president of a big union, the Service Employees International Union. Imagine the guy who represents thousands of workers getting put in handcuffs. The union says he was just watching the federal officers, which is his right under the First Amendment. You know, the "I'm allowed to look at you" part of the Constitution, but the officials said he was interfering. His arrest was like pouring gasoline on a fire that was already starting to burn bright. From that single spark in Los Angeles, the protest began to multiply. It was no longer just an LA story. Soon, people in New York, Chicago, Houston, and over 40 other cities joined in. It became a nationwide movement, with people from all walks of life coming together. They were united by a shared feeling that something was deeply wrong. What started as a local reaction to a specific event quickly turned into a national conversation about immigration, presidential power, and the direction the country is heading in. It was a clear sign that many people were fed up. So, why are all these people so upset? Let's break it down. The main target of their anger is ICE. This government agency is responsible for enforcing immigration laws inside the country. For many people, especially in immigrant communities, ICE has become a symbol of fear. They see the agency's actions, like the raids in Los Angeles, as aggressive and cruel. Protesters argue that these raids separate families, terrorize neighborhoods, and treat people who are just trying to build a better life like dangerous criminals. They believe this approach is not just wrong, but un-American. The arrest of David Huerta, the union leader, added a whole new layer to the protests. This wasn't just about immigration anymore. It was about the right to protest itself. A union president getting arrested while observing law enforcement sent a chilling message. To the protesters, it looked like the government was trying to silence anyone who disagreed with them or tried to hold them accountable. It made people feel like their fundamental rights were under attack, and that's a powerful motivator. When you feel like your voice is being taken away, you tend to shout even louder. Beyond ICE and the arrest, the protests are also aimed directly at President Trump. He has made cracking down on immigration a central part of his presidency. His supporters see it as him keeping his promises and being tough on border security. But for the protesters, his policies and his language have created a climate of hostility and division. They see the raids not as isolated actions, but as a direct result of the administration's agenda. So when they chant "No to Trump," they are protesting the entire direction he has taken the country, especially on these issues. Ultimately, these demonstrations are about the kind of country people want to live in. Protesters are asking some big questions. Should families be separated in the name of immigration enforcement? Are people who come to America for a better life a threat? Do we want a country where the government can silence dissent with arrests and intimidation? These are not small issues. They are fighting for a vision of America that they believe is more compassionate, more just, and more welcoming. That's why you see so many different faces in the crowds, all standing for what they see as the soul of the nation. Now, when thousands of people start protesting, the government usually has a response. And President Trump's response was, shall we say, not subtle. It was less like a gentle "please calm down" and more like a scene from an action movie. On Saturday, June 7th, the day after the protests started, he deployed 2,000 National Guard members to Los Angeles. And as if that wasn't enough, he followed it up by sending in 700 US Marines. Yes, the Marines. This move dramatically escalated the situation, turning a protest into a tense standoff in the middle of a major American city. The reaction from California's state leaders was swift and angry. Governor Gavin Newsom was not happy, to put it mildly. He and other state officials basically said, "Hey, this is our state, and you can't just send the military here without our permission." They accused the Trump administration of overstepping its authority and using the military to intimidate American citizens. The situation became a major power struggle between the federal government and the state of California, with state officials even threatening to sue the White House. It was a constitutional showdown playing out on the streets. Back in Los Angeles, the city government was trying to manage the chaos. As the protests continued day after day, the situation remained tense. By Tuesday, June 10th, the protests had been going on for 5 straight days. In an effort to restore order, Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass issued a curfew for parts of downtown LA. This meant people were not allowed to be out on the streets at night. While the city said it was for safety, some protesters saw it as another attempt to shut them down and limit their ability to make their voices heard. The government's overall response has only added more fuel to the fire. Instead of calming things down, deploying the military and imposing curfews seemed to convince the protesters that they were right all along. They saw it as proof that the administration was more interested in showing force than in listening to the concerns of its citizens. The image of US Marines standing opposite American protesters became a powerful symbol. For many, it confirmed their fears of an increasingly authoritarian government, making them even more determined to continue their fight for what they believe is right. So, where does all this go from here? Well, the protesters are not going home. In fact, they are planning something much bigger. Organizers have called for a massive day of action on Saturday, June 14th. They are calling it No King's Day. The name itself is a pretty clear message, right? It suggests that in America, there are no kings, only presidents who are accountable to the people. It's a direct challenge to what they see as President Trump's overreach of power. This is not just a protest. It's a statement about the very nature of American democracy. The timing of No King's Day is no accident. Organizers cleverly chose June 14th because it's President Trump's birthday. They are planning to counter-program his birthday celebrations with a nationwide display of dissent. On the same day, a large military parade is scheduled in Washington, D.C., an event the president has long wanted. The protesters aim to use the national spotlight to their advantage, creating a split-screen moment for the country. On one side, a show of military might, and on the other, a massive demonstration of people power. It's a symbolic battle for the nation's attention. The scale of No King's Day is expected to be enormous. Organizers are coordinating events in at least 1,500 communities across the United States. This isn't just happening in the big cities like New York and LA anymore. It's being planned in small towns and suburbs from coast to coast. The goal is to show that the frustration and anger are not confined to liberal strongholds but are felt all over the country. If they succeed, it could be the largest and most widespread day of protest since President Trump first took office, sending an undeniable message to Washington. In the end, these protests culminating in No King's Day are about more than just one policy or one president. They are a test of the country's health. They show that even when people feel powerless, they can come together to demand change. It's a reminder that in a democracy, the people's voice matters, whether it's expressed at the ballot box or on the streets. What happens on Saturday will be a major chapter in this ongoing story, and it will show the world how Americans are fighting for the future they believe in. No matter what happens, it's clear the conversation is far from over.